A comfortable bearded dragon does not usually run to you. That sentence is worth sitting with for a moment, because most of what we project onto pet behavior comes from a mammalian framework, and that framework misfires badly when applied to a reptile. Dogs and cats greet. They orient toward us, they vocalize, they close distance. Bearded dragons do something different, and the difference is not a deficiency. It is a different nervous system doing what its nervous system is built to do. There's a behavioral pattern most owners are looking for when they ask whether their dragon is comfortable with them, and the popular framing tends to confuse that pattern with affection. I want to walk through what comfort actually looks like in this animal, why 6 signs observed together tell a more reliable story than any single one, and how to distinguish genuine relaxation from a stress response that can look superficially similar. Before we get to the 6 signs, a clarification about what we're actually measuring. In a mammal, comfort tends to express as positive engagement, tail wagging, leaning in, soliciting contact. In a bearded dragon, comfort expresses primarily as the absence of threat assessment. The animal stops monitoring you as a potential predator, and the behavioral output of that internal shift looks to us like very little. It looks like stillness, slow movement, normal physiological function in your presence. This is not the same thing as love, and I want to be careful with the word. What we can defensively say is that a dragon comfortable with you has, through repeated low-stress interactions, learned that your presence does not predict negative outcomes. That is a real cognitive and behavioral achievement. It is also why 6 signs, observed together over multiple days, tell us more than any single moment. The first sign is what does not happen when you open the enclosure. When you slide the front of the habitat open, the dragon does not flatten, does not dart toward a hide, does not turn its body broadside to display size. Instead, it remains where it was, perhaps lifts its head slightly, perhaps continues whatever it was doing. The behavioral term for what is absent here is threat response, and its absence is meaningful. A dragon that has not learned to associate your approach with stress will simply not produce stress behaviors when you approach. The second sign is postural relaxation when supported. Once the dragon is in your hand or on your forearm, watch the body itself, not the face. A relaxed bearded dragon, well supported underneath, will let its limbs splay slightly outward, will rest its belly against your skin or sleeve, will allow its tail to lie wherever gravity puts it. A stress dragon does the opposite, limbs tucked tight, body held above the support surface, tail held rigidly. The relaxation we're looking for is postural, and it is reasonably hard to fake, because muscle tone is not under voluntary behavioral control in the same way that movement is. The third sign is voluntary approach. This is the one sign that involves active movement from the dragon, and it is among the most clinically meaningful. When you place your hand flat at the enclosure entrance, palm down, fingers loose, and the dragon walks onto it without hesitation, you are observing voluntary approach. In the behavioral literature, voluntary approach to a stimulus that the animal could easily avoid is one of the stronger indicators of low threat assessment. It is also the sign that benefits most from being observed across many sessions, because a single instance can be coincidence. The fourth sign is settling near you outside the enclosure. Picture a scenario most owners eventually encounter. The dragon is on your lap, perhaps under a soft warm blanket, perhaps positioned near a heat source you've arranged. A comfortable dragon, in this setting, will not constantly attempt to climb away. It will not pace the edges of the surface. Over 15 to 30 minutes, it will likely settle into a resting posture, eyes partially closed but responsive, breathing slow and regular. What we are observing is the animal choosing to remain in a location it could leave. That choice carries information. I want to flag something here, because this is the point in the reasoning where I want to slow down. The settling I'm describing depends heavily on environmental temperature. A dragon that has become too cool will move sluggishly, in a way that superficially resembles relaxation, but is something else entirely. If you cannot maintain a warm enough surface during out-of-enclosure time, the calm you observe may be partial cold-induced torpor, and that is not comfort. This is the kind of distinction the popular guidance often skips, and it matters. The fifth sign is normal feeding behavior in your presence. Eating is one of the more reliable behavioral assays we have, because feeding is suppressed by stress in nearly all vertebrates, and bearded dragons are no exception. A dragon that takes insects from tongs while you sit at the front of the enclosure, that finishes its salad while you're nearby, that does not flinch when you reach in slowly to clean. This is a dragon whose feeding behavior is not being inhibited by your presence. The clinical implication is that the animal's autonomic state, while you are there, sits closer to rest than to vigilance. The sixth sign, like the first, is defined by what is absent. A bearded dragon under perceived threat communicates in several visible ways. The throat darkens, sometimes to near black. The beard puffs outward. The mouth may open in a defensive gape. The body flattens to appear larger. A comfortable dragon does none of this when you approach. Its coloration stays at baseline, its posture stays neutral, its mouth stays closed. Routine absence of these displays, observed over weeks of normal interaction, is among the more dependable indicators that the animal has assessed your presence as low threat. Now, I want to address the nuance that probably matters more than any of the individual signs. Stillness alone is not comfort. A bearded dragon under acute fear can produce a freeze response, and to an untrained eye, freeze and relaxation can look similar at a glance. They are not the same. Here is the distinction worth memorizing. A relaxed dragon's stillness is accompanied by partial eye closure, slow, regular breathing, splayed limbs, a body that yields to gravity, and coloration at baseline. A frozen dragon's stillness is accompanied by wide, alert eyes tracking you, rapid, shallow breathing, tucked limbs, a body held above the surface, and often a darkening of the beard. The stillness is structurally different, even when the animal is not moving. This is one reason I keep emphasizing the composite. One sign in isolation is ambiguous. 6 signs together, observed over multiple days and multiple interactions, paint a picture that no single moment can. If your dragon does not yet show most of these signs, the appropriate response is not to push harder. Forced handling, faster approach, increased interaction time. These tend to slow rather than accelerate the process of low-stress association. The dragon learns from each interaction whether your presence predicts negative outcomes, and a forced interaction is, by the animal's measure, a negative outcome. The slower approach generally works better. Short, low-pressure interactions, predictable timing, allowing the dragon to choose contact rather than imposing it. The behavioral literature on associative learning in reptiles is reasonably clear on this point. Predictability and absence of aversive stimuli are the 2 variables that most reliably shift threat assessment downward over time. So to bring this together, comfort in a bearded dragon is not a single charming moment. It is a composite picture. No retreat when you open the enclosure, relaxed body when supported, voluntary movement onto your hand, willingness to settle near you outside the habitat, normal feeding in your presence, and routine absence of stress displays when you approach. Together, observed across days rather than minutes, these tell you what one isolated moment cannot. The practical work, if you want to know where your dragon stands, is observational. Watch for these 6 signs over the course of 1 to 2 weeks, not within a single session. Note which appear reliably, which appear sometimes, which do not appear at all. The pattern across days is far more informative than any single afternoon, and the pattern is what you should trust. I want to close with an honest note. Comfort in this species is a quiet thing, and it can be missed by an owner watching for the wrong cues. If your dragon does not greet you the way a dog would, that is not evidence of failure on your part or on the animal's. It is doing what its nervous system is built to do. The question is not whether your dragon will love you in mammalian terms. The question is whether, over time, your presence has come to predict nothing it needs to defend against. When the answer to that question is yes, you will see it, quietly, in 6 small ways at once.